Okay, hello everybody. This is Jason Saldana coming from Copa Design, and I wanted to welcome everybody to our latest episode of our Copacino podcast. Copacino is an area, or I should say, an initiative that we created here at Copa to talk about the world of design, the world of creativity, and how it crosses boundaries and how it connects to every single touch point. So we're going to be talking with professionals, having conversations amongst ourselves, and really finding out how much design plays into our everyday lives all around us. And today we have a wonderful guest. But before I introduce you, Angela, I'm going to have our team introduce themselves. So I'll go first. Again, everybody, my name is Jason. I'm CEO of Copa Design. We're a creative agency located in Santa Clara, California, heart of Silicon Valley. And we help companies increase their brand value, credibility, and trust within their market spaces through high quality graphic design. We specialize in logos, visual identity, things like that. And we also have a subscription service called Breeze, which is perfect opportunity, a perfect, I would say, solution for any company who wants to increase their brand visuals and graphic design. For really pennies on the dollar, it starts about $25 a day. So it's really, really good for any company. Today with me, we have Daniel Morais, our Chief Operating Officer, and Leo Bandera, our Chief Creative Officer. So before I get into introducing Angela, I'm gonna have Daniel and Leo say just a quick intro about themselves.
Hey everybody, as Jason said, I'm Daniel, and I'm the operational guy. My role at Copa is to keep everything running smooth, uh, from email accounts to our server in the cloud. So I actually just changed the accounts today, and everybody, hey Daniel, I can access the files. Like, calm down, it will be ready in 5 minutes, and it was. So that's what I do. I keep everything running smooth here.
Awesome. Yeah, we couldn't do it without you. Go for it, Leo.
Yeah, hello, I'm Leo Bandeira. I'm a chief creative officer. So I'm the creative guy, the good part of the agency. So, and I worked with design for over 27 years. And yeah, I'm here to build a company, I build a dream. And with Jason and Daniel, we can do everything we want. So yeah, thank you for having us.
Awesome, awesome. And I have the wonderful pleasure and to introduce our guest today. I'm going to read a little bit about you, Angela, and you can tell me if it's correct or not. Today we have with us Angela Duns, known as the BizDev Badass, and she is a leading business development consultant specializing in LinkedIn strategies for professionals. With over a decade of experience, she helps attorneys, CPAs, and financial advisors enhance their digital presence to attract better clients and grow their businesses. Holding an MBA and a master's in curriculum design, Angela brings diverse backgrounds from from a rock climbing guide to teaching across, I don't know if this is true, Siberia, Moscow, Mexico, and Peru. Is that?
That's
Wow.
that's actually true.
All right. An author, speaker, and LinkedIn expert, she offers services in professional branding, thought leadership, and content strategy, proving that a thriving business can be built on LinkedIn alone and without a website. She's originally from Wisconsin and a diehard Green Bay Packers fan. Okay, well,
That's very true.
we have the cheesehead here. All right,
Yep.
okay. Angela's expertise helps professionals turn connections into opportunities with strategic, high impact LinkedIn engagement. And to find out more about her, you can visit her website at angeladuns.com or find her on LinkedIn. That's where you'll see it. So, welcome, Angela. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this stuff with us. This is all new to us as well, but we're excited to have you here.
I am excited to be here, Jason.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So, I guess based on that background, do you want to add anything else to who you are and what you do so that people can hear it directly from you?
How much research did you do to find all of this stuff? That's pretty amazing. Some of that feels like ancient history. Um, I think really the only thing that people need to know is that, people have an eye for something or a knack or a superpower for it. Like Leo, your designs are so gorgeous. They do everything they're supposed to do. They create an emotional connection and they're visually beautiful. I have a superpower when it comes to marketing. I can hear things in between the lines and really help people design a personal brand that helps them create trust.
That's awesome. Yeah, and there's so many ways to build trust out there, and one thing that we see, I guess, from coming from a brand standpoint is, you know, the way you build trust is a lot of it is through consistency, right? If you have a company and then, since we're talking about LinkedIn today, if you're on LinkedIn, a lot of those things have to match. And if they're fractured or fragmented, um, they won't work well. So that kind of leads me into my first question is, and Leo and Daniel, this is more for you guys. And Angela, of course, we want to hear what you have to say, but what do you guys see as the role of graphic design in building a brand identity? I mean, obviously not from the structural issue of, we have to create something, but more so, what's the importance of it?
You want to start, Leo, or should I? I'll start. Okay, so the graphic design for, strength and of a brand, I would say it's like a business cards, right? So it's the first thing you see. It's the impression that you make. So if you have good designs, either for marketing or whatever you want to showcase your company, that's what people are looking at. So you need to have a good design so people can say, well, at least he's doing something good with it, doing the design good. I don't know if the brand is good, but at least the design is. You know what I mean? So that's how I see the design, the importance of a good design on marketing the brand and the brand itself.
Right. Absolutely. It gets your foot in the door, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Leo?
I agree 100%. I believe everything is part of the process. You cannot look just for a graphic design or just for a marketing or just for a branding. You have to look for whole process.
Mhm.
It's part of that process to be a successful. So from my perspective, everything starts with a logo. The logo is a kind of, from my perspective, logo is a kind of a soul. And after that soul be born, came personality, came styles, came culture or education, whatever, and that's how I look our job. We part of that that organic being. That's the company. You start with a logo, and then you put some visual identity. That's a graphic design, and came with the branding, came marketing campaigns, and everything. Create that world. So we cannot look just for a logo, just for a graphic design, or just for a branding. We have to understand the whole process.
Absolutely. And that kind of goes into a brand is more than just a logo, right? It's not, I mean, the logo is important because that's what everybody sees. That's the stamp. That's what people will connect to. But a company, a brand is more than just that, right?
Like us, you have a beautiful shirt, you have a beautiful beer. So this is part of yourself. This is part of you. And you try to looking good, not just for the others, but for yourself, for your self-esteem, So that's how I look in the company. They concerns about the visual identity, about everything. So
right,
I'm not
absolutely.
sure if it makes sense for everybody, but that makes sense for me.
Absolutely. And Angela, kind of segueing into that, how does brand play an overall presence in LinkedIn, right? Because I thought it was one thing, and then after, and I'm coming from a design background, and after talking with you, I was like, oh man, I'm doing it wrong.
Well, and, doing it wrong and just doing it inconsistently are two different things. I don't like to use the word wrong. It's just not as informed yet.
Right way to put it.
Um, I talk to my clients all the time about cognitive dissonance. Our brains are very picky these days and they have very little bandwidth. We don't have a very good attention span. And if we see anything that feels inconsistent or off about a personal brand or a company brand, it's just not right. There is no brand consistency. There is no consistency in the brand expression. That destroys trust. And then how will business move forward? You have to kind of have a look and a feel and that soul and personality that Leo was talking about. And then you have to ride that consistently throughout brand expression, starting with the logo and going all the way to every headline for every post, the banner that you have on your profile, the about section and how you started and what the tone and the feel is for that about section to your website. Your website has to coordinate with what you have on LinkedIn, or that cognitive dissonance just it sneaks right in.
Right. Absolutely. And when I think about it, because I look, on the personal note, you look at a lot of I look at Instagram and I see what companies are doing, and a lot of people understand, which is kind of really weird. They understand how to do it on Instagram, but then when it comes to LinkedIn, you see a lot of people that it's everything is just very different, and it's like, wait a minute, like what happened to the like where was the disconnect, right? And so I don't know if that's true. That's just my impression, but what do you think on that?
Well, I think that people hire people to do a campaign for them on one platform or another. And the differences are so huge between platforms these days that if you've got a professional working on LinkedIn and a professional working on your Instagram and somebody else working on your website, you have to find professionals that are going to hold that thread and weave it all the way through
Right.
so that everything is consistent.
Right. And when you talk about consistency, because I know there's a difference between a professional page and a personal profile. And what I see a lot is I know a lot of people really invest a lot of time in their personal profiles because it kind of seems like they're all trying to get found, and the company page, the professional profile, that's kind of where it kind of like they don't show that as much attention to it, which that's where I mean, LinkedIn is where a lot of business lives at. And a lot of people I don't think really go there to find the business. I think it's going to be somewhere else. So I do see a disconnect there.
And, the business pages on LinkedIn are kind of like the redheaded stepchildren of most companies. They just don't get the same attention that the personal profile gets. And, they all have their place.
Right.
Even if you're just a small business, people are going to look at your business page, and business pages really add to the SEO. They're a huge SEO factor. They get found sometimes before your personal profile does.
Mhm.
And so you do want to keep the consistency there. But you need to have a strategy that uses both the personal profile for whoever is the face of the brand, and then have a way for the other people to support that by using the company page as a repository for really key pieces of content that they can reshare to their personal profiles.
Got it. Got it. So post to professional page, share on personal page.
Yes.
Got it.
And
Okay.
whoever the CEO is or the marketing officer, any of those kind of roles, they should be posting it directly from their personal profile.
Got it. And there's a lot of people out there who unfortunately are getting laid off, kind of that's just what's happening in the world today. People are trying to update their personal pages and stuff like that. How do you what would you recommend to somebody like that if they're, you know, if they're a business professional, maybe they're not a business owner, but a business professional, like how would branding, design, and just having a good LinkedIn profile work for them?
Well, the first thing I would say to them is don't panic,
Right.
because no good design ever comes out of panic and desperation. And it's interesting. I just talked with a very high level professional today who has found himself out of a job. And he's like at the pinnacle of his career. He's a serial entrepreneur and he doesn't know what's next. And it's so funny because I can read his profile. I can have a conversation with him and I can tell him exactly who he is. But he's at this point where he just feels adrift and lost.
Mhm.
And so the advice that I would have for people who are finding themselves out of a job and in that limbo space is really just slow down, just stop all together and really think about what were the funnest things and the most impactful things that you've done in your career,
Hmm.
because that's where your superpowers lie.
Oh.
And even in an interview, when you talk about those things, that's when you light up and really come alive and have that energy and that chemistry that will get you hired for your next gig or your next job or your next contract, whatever that might be. And don't be afraid to take a contract in between places.
Mhm.
Keep some consistent work going and use that to find out, what is it that I want to do next? What is it that I still want to prove to myself in my career?
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I think a lot of people are probably doing that right now. Now, if we carry that over to business, I think businesses fall into that same, you know, profile because maybe they're saying, well, I need business. I need to find business. I need to find clients. I need to close something. I need to make money for my company. What are some of the kind of the mistakes or learning opportunities, I guess I would say, for businesses to improve their LinkedIn presence, right? If we're talking just from a specifically from a business point of view.
From a business point of view, I think one of the most important things for people to do is get back to basics. We kind of scrambled during the pandemic and did whatever we could to keep our businesses alive. And in the 5 years since the pandemic started, business has changed dramatically, probably more so in the previous 10 or 15 years. And so we are not solving the same problems that we were pre pandemic. We're not serving the same clients that we were pre pandemic. And so, really take a look at who were your last 5 clients that were fantastic,
Hmm.
where things really went well.
Hmm.
Do some market research, really get in touch with what is the problem you're really solving for your clients right now.
Hmm. Hmm.
Get back in touch with that,
Hmm.
because that's where your messaging and your brand is going.
Right.
People expect us to be the experts. We have to be 5 steps ahead of what's going on,
Right. Right.
not being informed by what's happening currently in the market. You're already behind if you're there.
Right.
So we really have to be on the leading edge, or we aren't going to get that next client. We have to have whatever that mojo thing is going on for us. You know, it's not the scramble or the desperation. We have to be on fire in
Right.
order for us to stay on top of things. Now, what do I see on LinkedIn? I see a lot of scramble. I
Mm.
see a lot of people putting out inconsistent messaging, and I'm going to tell you that isn't going to work.
Right.
Or people are overly verbose. You know, I tell people all the time, every post should have one main point. You're not going to put everything that you know into a single post. You're only confusing people.
Yeah.
It's not their playground.
Right.
They don't understand the game.
Got it. Yeah.
I have a question on that posting on LinkedIn, and as you mentioned before, the other social medias, Facebook, for example. I don't know if they still have it, but they had a rule, a 20% rule that you cannot use 20% of the image with texts, right? It had to be images. Now on LinkedIn, and we might be wrong, but that's what we found. And actually, Jason was guiding us in this, that on LinkedIn, they like those PDF pages.
Carousels.
Yeah, carousels. Yes. So on the message thing, for taking Facebook, for example, it would be one image and all the content on the body. But for LinkedIn, with the carousels, PDFs, I mean, you can write anything on a PDF, right? So is it the same, PDF as an image and the post on the body to send the right message?
What I'm finding, carousels are still hot. Now, the new algorithm report is coming out April 28th, so it's coming up very soon. And I went to a preview of that algorithm report. Carousels are performing very well on LinkedIn. And the reason is because if somebody clicks to the next slide on that carousel, you're increasing dwell time. And the algorithms are like, ooh, something's happening here. So they get very excited about that. So carousels, if they're very simple and under about 10 slides, are still performing really well. But here's something that I think no one is talking about that makes carousels really successful. They are taking up a huge amount of space in the newsfeed. And if you're using good design and good graphics, a good image, a headline that really draws people in, a bold statement, a statistic, those things that really grab onto our brain. If you're using that and all of that space in the news feed, you're winning the game. So I use that carousel size for single images for my clients. And I keep them very simple, sometimes no message at all, just a logo. But it's something that really draws people in, so they actually read the content that goes with the post, because we are much more driven by images than we are by text. We run from blocks of text. But if the image is interesting, and if it gives them brand recognition, oh, this is Jason, I know he's going to tell me something important. This is Copa, they have great stuff. You know, it's the brand recognition and the image that really pull people in. I really work on the psychology behind all of this, and there's so much interesting work going on that's informing how design and brand and, our brains, what part of our brain is involved in all of it. And it's so interesting because part of it starts with safety. Do I feel safe with this brand? It's the amygdala. It's that, the fight or flight and thing. Yeah. Is this going to be confusing and scary, or is this safe? Am I safe here? Is it simple?
Yeah. And I think you hit on so many good points. One of them was, not putting a Bible on the post. We get that a lot when we're creating a brochure, when we're creating even a website, we're creating PowerPoint, we're creating flyers. We always ask, send us your content, but don't write a Bible, right? And I understand people don't understand how visuals and graphics work, but sometimes it's so much that we spend a lot of time just saying we have to cut down 90% of this. And for some people that they don't want to let go. They think it has to be on there. And so I think us as consultants and being professionals in our field as well, similar to yours, is that's where we have to have that conversation and say, look, if you want to get to point A, B, or C, you need to pull back. And one thing that we say is less is more, right? Like you had mentioned, attract somebody in first, and then figure out what they need, and then you can expand upon what you do as a company versus saying I do everything and under the sun and plus, right? Because I think that's what scares people. It doesn't give them that trust or the credibility. Is that kind of is that what you see sometimes?
I think the job of the image, especially on LinkedIn, where there's, a billion people and God knows how many of them are just spamming us with content constantly in the news feed. The job of the image is to attract attention. So it is not where you put the most important information. That belongs in the post. They need to decide whether this is for them or not. And then if it is for them, they'll read the post and they'll catch the information that's important. But it's still really important to keep that messaging simple, really simple. You know, there's this thing that's going on LinkedIn. It's called bromance. There's these posts that have a single line, and it takes up every single possible character that's available. So they go on and on and on. And actually, the psychology behind that is, you know, you want to find out if there's going to be some point to it at the end. So it increases dwell time, and you keep reading. And so it really is just a trick. It's not like there's any substance there for you to ever discover in this broetry, this bromance thing. You put the good information at the beginning.
And,
Yeah.
and
if they
go ahead.
if they need to know more, they'll qualify it with the rest of the information.
Right. I think I know what you're talking about. Are those posts that where it says you can be the best at this, and you know, sign up below, and then the next line is, and if you ever thought about this, you know, keep reading and figure it out, and then you get down to that part, and then it just adds another headline that kind of draws you in. Is that are those bromance posts?
It's allure after allure after, you know, it's like, and lures get bigger as you go along, and they just keep, it's bait.
Yeah, clickbait. My goodness. Okay, now I know what that
Yeah.
now I know what that means. I was like, I wonder what these kinds of posts are called. But I want to touch a little bit on dwell time. I think that's really interesting. So the algorithms want dwell time on someone's profile, and I'm assuming the longer the dwell time, that's how that person's profile gets raised a little bit more within LinkedIn. It kind of gets pushed to the top, or is that how it starts showing up in other people's feeds?
It's how it starts attracting the algorithms. You know, the algorithms really don't care about dwell time. All they care about is comments and relevant comments. That's the only thing that drives any kind of recycling through the news feed on LinkedIn. And, you know, you get a couple of hours, the algorithms are going to look at a certain post, and dwell time helps because that's what initially attracts the algorithms to a certain post, is that dwell time. And impressions are somebody actually stopped the scroll long enough to read something or look at the image on that post. That's all an impression is. They're cheap. They're not worth anything, but it's the beginning. But it's as soon as you start getting comments, that's when the algorithms get excited. And they start saying, "Oh, there's something happening here. It's starting a conversation. There has to be something interesting about this post." And sometimes it's just your best friends that are commenting on something. So usually the 10 people that comment all the time on your posts, it doesn't give you much of a boost because they know those are your top 10 people that are always getting involved. In fact, if it's somebody that's a second connection that gets involved with that conversation, you get double the points in the algorithms.
Got it. So is one of the goals then when you're doing a post to get comments? Is that what
Yes.
okay.
That is your sole job, is to get more comments or to get somebody to share that. So like you guys, if Jason posts something, Leo, you could share that to your network, or Daniel, you could share that to your network. And that's when it really starts to get interesting. Ooh, this is getting around.
Got it. And for businesses, is it good to does it help the business as well? So if I go and I share somebody else's post, and where I'm going with this is, you know, if you're a consultant, or if you're trying to build up your business, that's where you could go to your sphere of influence, say, look, like my post and share it to your profile. I mean, that's kind of priming the pump. I'm sure eventually LinkedIn will say, hey, I already know these 10 people, so no, we're not going to give it as much visibility. But the goal, where I'm going with this is, let's say if you share it to your wall, Angela, and somebody picks it up from yours, that kind of helps, that maps back to me.
Yes. And I've actually done that. I shared your the design report for this year.
Oh, great.
and that got a lot of attention. You know, the algorithms are still kind of built on the whole giver's gain idea. And it is relevant comments. You know, I have a lot of people that I know from provisors that do comment on my posts quite regularly. But it's the relevance of those comments that makes the difference. Are they adding to the conversation, or are they just saying, oh, nice job, Angela, or, you know, great point, or, you know, that stuff doesn't do anything for you. But if they're actually a couple of sentences with some good keywords, because they're actually adding to the conversation, they're another consultant or something that has high level information that they can add to that conversation, that's when the algorithms really start to get excited about things.
Let me ask you, hashtags.
Done.
So no hashtags.
The only thing that hashtags are doing for you on LinkedIn is getting you into Google searches.
Okay.
Hashtags they're completely irrelevant on LinkedIn.
And what about videos?
Video. Oh my gosh, what a topic. 300% decline in the way the algorithms push video. Decline. 300%.
So it's not a post video.
Well, okay. Here's where you really have to start to make some strategic decisions. Are you posting for the algorithms, or are you posting for the people? Are you driving business, or are you winning a popularity contest? Really? Now, for me, my videos really drive my business. And so I don't give a damn what the performance is in the algorithms. I don't care if it's, you know, no longer 1,000 people that look at my post. Maybe it's only 100, but they're the right people. Because when I get into a conversation with somebody, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, I've seen your videos on LinkedIn. There is no faster way to know, like, and trust than a video. It's your face a foot in front of them, and they either like you or they don't. And if they like you, they're going to watch your videos every time they see one come up. So I religiously post 1 video a week to keep me in the game with my ideal clients, not the algorithms.
Got it. So if you post video, what I'll say to keep it simple, the right way, right, to talk to your audience rather than doing a video because everybody says video is the best and it's going to work for SEO or whatever it is. That's how you will get more engagement, because people will stop to see your video kind of with more interest rather than, oh, that's just whatever company. So the content in the video has to be of a strong interest for, rather than somebody going, hi, my name is so and so, you know.
No.
Okay.
No, that very first line has to draw people in. 45 seconds to 60 seconds is max, but 67% of the C-suite decision makers would rather watch a video than read a block of text ever.
Got it. Leo, you were going to say something.
Yeah. Well, from my perspective, the algorithm is very important, of course. We're all about how important it is. However, like Angela said, we talk about people. We have to connect with people. And the first time I heard about emotional design was 20 years ago. And that's, I completely fascinated about that, because just that time I tried to understand the mind of the people to sell my design. So if I connect with the people, I don't need to care about the algorithms. I don't need to care about the technology behind the tool, right? The technology behind the Instagram and even the LinkedIn. I just try to connect people and make this connection stronger, little by little, with 1, 3, 5. doesn't matter if I have 1 million followers and they don't care about me. Like just 3% care about me, or just 3% interact with me. I prefer like 1,000 followers, but a 90% interact, like a comment and a sharing, and as Angela said. So in my point of view, we have to understand our followers, the people who wants to know about us, to listen our message, much more than algorithm is good for that or for this. So that's depend a lot, and we try to control the narrative. Makes sense. So that's my opinion about that. Of course, algorithm is very important, technology is very important, but the most important thing is connecting people. It's people and people. You know, there's somebody else behind the screen, and you have the chance to talk with that people.
Right.
Whenever you want to talk.
And I think that's a great point, Leo, because what you're talking about falls in line with branding, right? It's, you know, kind of like when we did that presentation and we had that quote from Jeff Bezos, you know, your brand is what people say when you're not in the room, right? And I think, you know, where you're going with it, Leo, is you're designing, you're producing, you're promoting for your audience. And I think that's a very important thing that especially on LinkedIn, and probably all for social media, is when you promote for your audience, right? Your people, your fans, not everybody else. That's kind of how you're going to find your tribe per se, your followers, and they're going to want to hear more from you. And so I think that's a really, really important um, you know, thing to know, because if people, and Angela, you see this all the time, if people are just posting just to post because they think they're supposed to post, they're not going to get anywhere. That's almost like spinning their wheels, right? And that's like in marketing where they're just going through a burn. They're just marketing just to market. And we see this even at networking events. People, you see everybody. So there's people who are professional networkers. They just go to networking events just to go to networking events because they think it's going to help them. But it's almost like the law of diminishing returns. It's not going to help them. Then that extra networking event is not going to help them. If they're more selective, right? If they are more selective on the content, if they're more you know, focused and selective on what they're going to post. And I think that goes back to what Leo was saying. That's where you're going to find those people, you know, or the people are going to find you on LinkedIn.
Right. And, you know, we used to make this distinction between sales and marketing. You know, sales is one-to-one, marketing is one-to-many. And I think that really has gone out, it's gone out the window. Because I tell everybody, if your post isn't a one-to-one conversation with a singular audience of some kind, you know, a specific problem or a specific industry or whatever it might be, it has to be a one-to-one conversation. We are really done since the beginning of the pandemic with that mass messaging kind of thing. It doesn't work. If you're not speaking to me personally, I'm not listening.
That's a great point. That's a really good point. And that takes me on to kind of my next question is, and we spoke about a little bit at the beginning, personal versus professional. How do people balance that? Because there's a lot of consultants out there. We're both improvisers. Daniel's improvisers also. Sorry, Daniel. You know, Daniel has the East Coast covered. And I see a lot of my provisor people on LinkedIn on their personal page, and I don't see a lot of them with the professional page. I interact with them a lot on their personal page, and but I don't see them promoting their company pages very much. So how would a consultant or a small business balance those two? Because I think that's really important.
Well, there's actually two things that we're talking about here. One is the difference between professional brand and personal brand, and the other is profile versus the company page. Now, company page, you want to have some really good things that are credibility boosters for you. some great information that helps instill confidence in whoever your ideal audience is. So it's just kind of, it's a library, if you will, of things. Or, you know, if speaking events are something that you do, or you just won an award, or, you know, the design report that you guys do, those are quintessential things that need to be on the company page. Now, I work with attorneys all the time, and they hire me personally to help them with their, they don't realize it, but to help them with their personal brand. You know, they'll say, oh, I work for Baker McKenzie or Dwayne Morris or, you know, whoever. I don't need a personal brand. And I would argue that they do. I mean, the whole idea behind being a rainmaker is having that extra personal something that brings in the business. And, you know, it's redundant to say that it's a competitive marketplace, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in. It is cutthroat out there. So what is it that differentiates you? And, you know, having a strong company brand is only a fraction of that. It's important and it makes a difference, and you should use that and roll with it, not work against it. But what really stands out is your personal brand. Can somebody develop instant rapport and trust with you? If they can, it makes the whole process so much more easy, impactful, and rewarding.
That's really interesting because you would think LinkedIn, professional, it's all on the company page. But what you're saying is company page supports the personal, and the personal is really what's going to drive a lot of stuff.
It's the only thing that does. I don't care how big the company, you could work at Nike, and that doesn't impress me so much. It's really you and your ethics and your beliefs and values. Really, LinkedIn, if you think about it at its essence, LinkedIn is driven on values.
Mm-hmm.
And we sort of read that in between the lines. Is this person an ethical person? Can I trust them? Do they have the same ideals that I do? Do they have the same beliefs about how to drive business? You know, whatever it might be. You know, Copa is probably not going to be for everybody. Some people like loud brands instead of tasteful brands. You know, there's always going to be some differences about that sort of thing. But I'm here to tell you right now, simplicity and clarity are the only thing that sell.
Got it. Keep the KISS method. Keep it simple, right?
Yes.
Say the second word. Okay.
Strategically simple.
Oh, that's a great way. Keep it strategically simple. All right. So with that is when you're posting on your personal profile and you don't want to post too much content, your videos need to be I would say with meaning, with focus, so to draw people in. Um, what I did this recently, and I did it for two reasons, and I was really interested. It was interesting to see the results. I usually will post something or I'll share something from our company page. I don't get that much engagement, right? I don't know what it is, right? I just maybe people just don't care about what I'm saying. I don't know. But I did something 2 weeks ago, and it was for the father-daughter dance that I went to with my two daughters, right?
I remember that post.
I just wanted to see what's like. Number one, I mean, I don't really share the personal side, and that'll kind of go into my next question to you. But at the same time, I want to see what's interesting. So I posted it, you know, and I explained something, and I got a lot of comments. I got a lot of and it was really interesting. So when you're doing your personal profile, I know a lot of people say, well, I don't want, you know, family and business is separate. Do you think there's a good mix to, if people want to introduce that more of a personal side on your professional page?
Yes, I think it's critical because it's people aren't doing business with your logo. They're doing business with you as a person. They want to know who you are, and they want to feel good about doing business with you. And so it really is your personal brand that causes the wheels of business to move forward. Yes, there is a mix. You know, there are too many people that are putting too much personal information out there. You know, a lot of people ask me, oh my God, Angela, is LinkedIn turning into Facebook? And there is evidence of that. You know, for some people, you know, here's the shocking thing. Pre-pandemic, 30 to 40% of the content in the news feed was baby boomers. And right now, today, out of 1 billion people on LinkedIn, 60% of the membership of LinkedIn is between the ages of 25 and 34. They don't have the same business acumen or experience or discretion or professionalism. They'll get there. They'll get there, but they're not there yet.
So they're being themselves.
They are being themselves. And so a lot of the rules and the etiquette on LinkedIn have been diluted dramatically since the beginning of the pandemic, when we were all sharing, you know, things about, you know, hey, we're in this for a long time, let's support each other. And, you know, here's a picture of my kid graduating from high school and the, you know, whole drive-by parade at their house or whatever it was that happened. We do want to know who you are as a person, Jason, before we do business with you. And that's become more important than ever. But you always want to relate that back to business principles of some kind. You know, why is this important?
Right.
You know, just showing a picture of your kid graduating from high school doesn't do much for me. But if you tell me a story about why that's incredible or why I should care, then I might read your post and really start to create that emotional connection to you, that trust, that rapport, that credibility builder. I worked with an HR tech guy. He has 2 HR tech companies. And what we found very early, he did my thought leadership package. So this is a 6-month, really intensive package. And what we found out was nobody gave a damn about the tech. They didn't even want to hear about the tech. It was too confusing. They wanted to know who he was. And so once a week, we did do a personal post for him, but it was always relating things back to business. For example, he's the president, his wife is the CEO of one of those companies. And, you know, how do you keep the love alive when you work together every day?
Yeah.
You know, how do you raise 3 teenagers while you're doing that? You know, so there were some interesting things, and he was really great about always relating that back to business principles, because we were working together during this we actually worked together for 9 months. And he tripled the size of his network. He 5x'd the number of profile views, and his sales team was super happy, and they hired a new guy.
Gosh. Wow. So that goes to show the power when you do something right on LinkedIn, that it, you know, it will bring you business. It will bring you dollars.
It does relate to business development and the bottom line of sales.
Right. So when with that personal balance, and if you do share those the family photo or whatever it is, map it back to business in some way, shape, or form. So when you map it back in your message, are you mapping it back saying, you know, this is what the reason why I'm doing this is, and is because of, I don't know, XYZ at my company, and something like that? Would you tag your company page? Like, what would you do?
You can. I'll give you another example of one of mine. I posted a picture of my sister and I snowboarding. I mean, we were just sitting on the snow, you know, parking our snowboards, because it's really hard to take a candid photo when you're standing on them. And it was a terrible picture. It was really pixelated. It was awful. But what I talked about in the post was when my sister, we were the first chicks on the hill, and nobody would teach us how to snowboard. The guy instructors did not want us on the hill. And so no one would give us lessons. They just didn't even care. So my sister and I taught each other how to snowboard using a book that we took out from the library. There's one page that demonstrated how to do the falling leaf that I had tucked inside the pocket of my ski coat. And we would look at that and try to follow the pattern of the falling leaf to teach ourselves how to snowboard. And so in that post, I just talked about passion and commitment. That was 3 years ago. And that post every once in a while still resurfaces, and it's way over 5,000 views.
Gosh, okay. That's awesome. Yeah, and congratulations on learning how to snowboard.
Well, so, it doesn't have to be directly to business, but if it can go directly to values that are consistent with your brand. I mean, my brand is not a tame brand. It's a badass brand. It's a little bit more out there on the edge. And so I have to stay consistent with that. I have to stay, if everybody else is staying 5 steps ahead of the game, I got to stay 10 steps ahead of the game.
Okay. That's really interesting. Yeah. And it makes me think, I don't know, Leo, I don't know if you remember this, but when your son graduated, I think it was 8th grade, went into high school, I did a post because I was really proud, of Leo and his family. And for those of you who are out there, Leo, is originally from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. He was born and raised in Copacabana neighborhood. And that's why our company is called Copa. And through the value of the company, we were able to, bring him here and go through the proper channels. And, he's established his life here in America, in the United States. But the point of the post was, he has 2 boys, and his son, coming from a different school system, came here and really kicked ass in grade school and middle school, and now transitioned into high school. And for me, that's a big deal. I used to live in a different country. I see how different things are. And so to have something like that, for me, I was very proud of, Leo and his family. And now that I think about it, I did get a lot of, reviews and comments on that. And so I guess my question is, that's probably what you mean in terms of how do you map it back to your values, or does that map back to, your company? It's something like that, I'm assuming, right?
Yes, yes. It's really displaying where your personal passion is, where your values lie. Like you mapped yours back, the father-daughter thing, they're the reason why you're doing what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty core. But those personal posts, what I have noticed, because I keep KPIs on all of my clients, is that it brings back all kinds of attention to your past posts. So it kind of gives them a new life. Once people are interested in a post like that, they go back and look at all the other things that you've posted.
They go start searching your
So,
profile. Okay.
yes. So it's kind of like a revitalizing little boost to your content, all of your content, your body of content, when you do a personal post like that.
Amazing. It's really interesting. Wow. Leo, you were going to say something?
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, cool. Yeah, that's why we have Jason is more than a CEO, Leo more than a CCO, Daniel more than COO. So we are much more than our roles. The work's not define us. So what is the most important thing in a human being? It's if he is a CEO or if he is whatever, it's a part of the process. Like I said in the beginning, everything is a process. Jason is not just a badass CEO in the industry. He's a great father. He's a great friend. He's a great husband. He's a great human being. So when you make business with a guy like him, you trust on the process. Yeah, he just he don't look for the business, just the budgets. Think about much more. His vision is much more than contract. you know. So, and I believe that's the point. That's the goal.
Mhm.
Show ourselves, not just our technique,
Mhm.
but who we are
Mhm.
behind.
We
Absolutely.
don't want to do business with jerks, whatever that definition is for you. And we all have a different definition for who's a good guy and who's a jerk.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of going a little bit more into the personal and the business portion of it. Um, what do you do in terms of like if somebody comes to you, how do you help align their brand and marketing efforts for their company and against their personal, right? So when somebody comes to you and they say, I need help on, I want to grow my business on LinkedIn. Is that when you sit down and say, let's start at the beginning? We're going to help focus on your personal. Is that kind of how it works?
I've been really, really lucky in my business. I must have some mad intuition going on in the back of my brain someplace that I listen to once in a while. And very early on, I designed, actually, before I started my business, I designed a writing activity. And I've expanded on it many times, but that is how I start working with someone. It doesn't matter which package it is that they buy from me, they're going to get the writing activity. And I don't care how many questions they answer, they can only answer half of them or a third of them. But somewhere in between the lines, I'm going to start to see what it is that makes them tick, who they are at their core. And I also do, it's just a really lighthearted branding quiz that I send to people also, and try to find out what are their top 3 archetypes for their brand. Because if we can stay within those bumpers of what their personality is and what their archetypes are for their brand, then we're going to hit some sort of sweet spot where some really magical things start to happen, like they did with my HR tech guy. He's a bold personality. He's a my way or the highway kind of guy, and it works for him. I mean, what else drives a startup?
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
You have to be persistent and passionate, and you just never say no. You just keep going no matter what happens. And so we all have some sort of magical sweet spot where if we can be consistent about expressing that and using design and words and images and whatever it is, our website, every single thing that we do, the way we show up at networking events, the design of your business card, if you're still using one, I gave up on them. But it's all those things have to be consistent with your core.
Right. Absolutely. I think that is important because I see people at networking events and sometimes I'm like, you don't really seem like what I thought you were going to be like when I looked at your website or your.
Cognitive dissonance. And then the back of your brain, the parts that we don't even realize are active, are saying no.
Yeah, red flags. Red flags are popping up everywhere. Got it. That's really interesting because you would think, especially if you're going in person, you want to represent your brand, you want to represent your company, and a lot of people are just they maybe they just don't see the connection there of how they're supposed to keep it consistent, I would imagine.
Yeah, a lot of people think, oh, it's an in person thing. Things are going to happen. Well, if you're slappy or lazy and don't show up really well and don't have your A game face on, no, nothing's going to happen. In fact, you're going to do yourself a lot more harm.
Absolutely. And that kind of goes into my next thing and talking about like LinkedIn and companies. For us, we do graphic design, we do brand visuals, we do visual identity, stuff like that. And a lot of times we'll get asked, oh, well, why, why should I have a consistent, why should I pay you guys to have, to do my LinkedIn post design or my Instagram design? And, our response is pretty simple. It's to keep your brand credibility up, right? If everything is matching, if everything is in sync, people are going to your that credibility and that trust and that visual. I don't even know if it's 7 seconds anymore. I don't, it's probably 1 second or 2 seconds that people will make that visual connection. It helps reinforce that. And and for us, we chuckle a lot because it's like, well, I guess I don't, aside from budget, maybe maybe we didn't do a good job educating them, or maybe they just don't see the value, right? And our role is always trying to educate of why graphics are important. There's one attorney that I know, he's in Provisors, and I noticed a big shift in his posting. It went from a lot of his own personal things, but then he started adding really good graphics. And so for me, everything's visual. So when I see something, I'm like, wait a minute. Number one, how come he didn't hire us? That's my first thing. But number two is, you know, he did something different, and now I'm looking. So I actually sent him a message and I said, hey, I noticed things have changed. I like it because I'm coming from a visual standpoint. What did you do different? And so he told me, I hired a consultant. I hired somebody to do my social media posts. We work on the content, and then they align the design to the post. And for me, that was just music to my ears, because a lot of companies don't realize the power that graphic design has within the LinkedIn profile. And not tooting our own horn, but that, again, that's one of the reasons why we created our design subscription Breeze, because, if you can hire Leo for, $25 a day to have him at your side, and we have, a lot of other designers as well. That's a really good thing for businesses, because they can basically ask for anything that they want. But more importantly than that, I think it's the value that good design brings, because they can have super strong graphics coupled with super strong content that just kind of, makes their profiles put on steroids. And so I genuinely sent him a note and I said, I think this is great. Like, I see a huge difference. And on the flip side, we have seen instances where people have said, you know what, I think I'm going to try it myself now. So thank you very much for getting us going, setting us up. And we kind of understand what we need to do, because we're going to follow kind of the similar template, right, that you guys have created. And what we say is not really a template. It's kind of who you are, but that brand is going to evolve. And then it kind of just goes off the rails, and you start seeing it. And I'm like, yeah, it looks like you ordered that from wish.com or Temu. Like, it's not real. Like, it's there. We see something similar to like what we did, but it just went down, right? And I don't know if you've noticed that too with your
Oh,
clients, in terms of saying, thanks, Angela, I think I can handle it from here now. And then you're like, what the heck just happened?
yeah, yeah. It's very interesting. I'm working with a attorney down in LA who's an entertainment attorney, and they're very emotion based. They're producers. They're in the industry in Hollywood, right? So visuals really attract them. And we worked together. We worked on his profile. We beefed everything up. He was naturally doing videos that were really good. They were too long, but they were getting him good results. So he took on 3 more partners because he's building the business. And guess what? He quit doing video. He quit paying attention to anything that was happening on LinkedIn. And now he's got to feed 3 people beside himself. And the pandemic happened, and SAG-AFTRA, and all the rest of the things. And so he came back to me and said, Angela, I haven't posted a video in 2 years. I need your help. And so I don't care what anybody says, thumbnails make a difference on your video. They make a difference. All of this real stuff that they're doing on LinkedIn that has no thumbnails is, I think that the reel feature that they added to the mobile on LinkedIn is what's killing video, because everybody's complaining about how noisy and obnoxious and, just indiscriminate and blah, blah, blah. I think that's what's killed video on LinkedIn. So I'm very consistent about the way I post. Very short videos, really great graphics in the thumbnail that have that brand recognition. And within 2 months of starting once a week posting for him, On a Saturday, he got a comment on one of his videos. Hey, I'm a producer. I'm right at the stage where I need what you said in this video. Please get a hold of me this week.
Awesome.
On the same video, some guy said, have your person schedule some time with me. I need you to be on our podcast.
Wow. That's awesome. Number one, it's awesome that when you can say my people will get your people with my people. I think that's a great thing to have. But but I think that's really that just goes to show the power of having a professional company, consultant, whatever it is on your team, right? And I think a lot of people discount professional services, graphic. I know they do for the graphic design because we have that conversation all the time, but we're all in the same space where we are not really giving, we're creating, but we're not doing something that's tangible. And so it's sometimes for companies like ours, we have to say, hey, you have to trust what we do because it will help you, right? But once they
Yeah.
see that trust and have that faith, then they're like, oh, I've seen the light, right? And I'm glad that that person came back to you because it does go to show the power of what you do and how you help companies. But at the same time, why it's important to have number one, a strong LinkedIn profile, but number two, having a strong professional who knows, their stuff guiding you, right? And I think every successful person has a coach. I think coaching and mentoring is so important because I don't know it all. Daniel, you don't know it all, Angela, but you need those outside perspectives. And I think having those types of people in your lives, it doesn't matter what love, what height that you attain in your career. I think still having a coach is really important. And I think that's what you bring to a lot of these companies is you're this wonderful coach, consultant, mentor, and really person who helps them get results.
And I think there is a really big difference between the profile and a posting campaign that a lot of people don't quite get the difference. Number one, have a great profile so that if somebody looks at your profile, they say yes instead of no. If you haven't spent a lot of time on your profile, why should anybody do business with you? If it is not client focused, if it is not absolutely clear what problem you help them solve, how do you expect them to take the next step? And then number two is the posting. Posting is the gift that keeps on giving, but it is a long game. It is a commitment. It is consistency. I don't care if you post once a week, you do it religiously. I don't care if you go on a European vacation for a month, schedule it out. That needs to stay consistent. LinkedIn rewards consistency. Our brains reward consistency. So it's really important. If you're going to commit to content, you are in it for the long haul.
Right. I think, and that's so important for people to understand because a lot of it is sporadic. So on that with people, let's say if they're just starting out, what are some tools or resources that they could use to create that content or to create that video or and maybe that's a startup that says, we don't just have the budget, but I know what I want to do and how do I get started? What would you recommend?
I recommend starting with your origin story.
Okay.
Why do you exist?
Right.
You can get several different videos and several different posts out of the origin story. And you really have to, and it's hard. It's hard for you to tell your own origin story. You kind of have to go back to your clients and find out, what is it that we really did for you? Why did you have faith in us from the get-go, to solve your problem? That kind of thing. But a good origin story is that really pulls people in. You can get some mad brand loyalty out of an origin story. So that's a good place to start. I use Canva for everything that I do. And, people poo-poo Canva as being, a non-professional tool. But I seem to get some really good professional results out of Canva. And that's what I use. I mean, that's where I get the carousel designs that I use for some of my clients. And I'm telling you, a really good carousel, you can post that 2, 3, 4 times a year and still get some really good mileage out of something like that. Other things is frequently asked questions. Go to your FAQs. What were things that people asked you this week? What came up in your client conversations? Answer those questions. Content is not hard. People make it hard, but it's really simple. It's like, what do your people want to know? If you've done a speaking engagement, what were those first 3 questions that came up? You know, if you're in an initial consultation, where are people really scared and confused? Talk about that. You know, really be honest. What are those industry updates? What's going on in your industry that you know about, but everyone else is dying to hear about, but you don't share that sort of thing? Because you don't think it's important or it's just obvious to you. It's not obvious to your clients. They want to know you have some expertise and they don't need to understand what it was that you just said. They just need to know that you know it. And then, you know, what does it look like to work with you? You know, if somebody decides that they want to work with you, what's the next step? If you make that super easy and give them confidence about taking that step, they're much more likely to take that step. How should they get a hold of you? You know, it's really, and then client success stories, client success story, client success story, client success story. Illustrate to me the kind of results I can get if I work with you.
So when you say client success, that can go 2 ways. Would you recommend testimonials?
Testimonials are great. Some people don't feel comfortable. I'm an introvert. I work with a lot of introverts. Some people don't like that whole self-promotion thing. So an easier way is to just really talk about what was the challenge that they came to you with, what was the solution that you cooked up together, and then what was the result. And you may not have numbers to back it up, but numbers are super powerful. So you don't need to use identifying features for that. You know, you can just say, a financial organization came to me. They have ridiculous compliance issues, and they really wanted to establish some visibility on LinkedIn. And so here's what we did. And, you know, they hired a new agent, you know, whatever it was.
Got it. That is so client success stories. In my mind, I would, so for those watching, maybe they can consider that like mini case studies as well, right? So
Yes. Okay. Yeah, mini, because case studies are, who's going to read it?
Right.
It's you take snippets out of that and share that.
Right. And then also I would think if they're posting, some things that they can do is, like you said, maybe would you recommend resharing a popular post that they did maybe last year or the year before?
Yep.
Or, okay.
I always recycle content. But usually I'm going to freshen it up in some way because just to amuse myself,
So
make it look brand new in some way, shape, or form.
repackaging, that's what we would say.
Yes. Yep. Repositioning, repackaging, repurposing.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Okay, cool. This has all been really, really helpful. And I learned a lot. I mean, I don't know about you guys, Daniel, Leah, but I learned a lot.
I did. Yeah.
But it goes to show the power of brand, right? Kind of like that saying that I said earlier, your brand is what people say when you're not in the room. And that's kind of what a good LinkedIn profile is. That's kind of what, how people are going to get to know you. And then they kind of start that chatter around you after the fact. Cause they're probably going to talk to their admin or their partner and say, hey, I know we've been needing this type of stuff. I found this person. Maybe we should start the conversation. Right. So I think it's super important to have that strong brand on there. And so with that is like, how would people get in touch with you? What's the easiest way? For LinkedIn? Send you a note?
LinkedIn would be my preferred method. And then at the top of my LinkedIn profile, there is a clickable link for my calendar. You can actually get on my calendar in that above the fold view. Or my email address is there, or you can send me a direct message on LinkedIn. It all works.
Wonderful. Wow.
Yeah, so what's your LinkedIn?
It would be all of LinkedIn stuff and then Angela Dunn's backslash.
There you go.
And we'll put that when we post this, we'll put that in the description too.
Yeah.
So yeah. And for us, everybody who's watching, my name is Jason. Daniel and Leah. We're with Copa Design. Our whole goal is to enhance your company's credibility, trust, and really ultimately sales in terms of through strong graphic design, visual identity, logos, things like that. We understand the power of design. I'm really happy that we talk with you, Angela, because we see powerful design with powerful content that can be used on a personal page, on a personal LinkedIn page. I think that's a wonderful combination. And so for people watching and, again, who we are, if you are a small company, if you're a middle, it doesn't really matter the size. If you are looking to refresh, like you said earlier, repurpose, repackage, we would love to chat with you as well. We're the guys to when you need that new visual, the new logo, the new colors, you have a new initiative, people need graphics and we're the company to come to. And also our last plug is, our design subscription service Breeze, where you can hire our award-winning graphic design team for starting at $25 a day. It's a great tax write-off. I know that's a good thing because design is great, and at the same time, you still get a buffet of graphic design, for pennies on the dollar. So, I would like to say thank you, Angela. I thought
It has been a pleasure. This has been a really high level conversation.
it's been fun. I learned a lot. And our goal is, we want people to contact you. So if you are watching, send Angela a note. And I want to say again, thank you very much. And Daniel and Leo, thank you for being on this with us as well. And, we'll say stay tuned for our next, episode when that's
Episode. Yeah.
we won't
Thank
tell
you, Angela. It was a masterclass
Thank-
of LinkedIn, man. I learned a lot.
it was
Well, there is a magic spot when content and design come together. And that is what drives conversion. People talk about lead gen all the time. I'll never say that word in conjunction with LinkedIn. It is a relationship building tool, it is a nurturing tool. And when you can hit that sweet spot between design, imaging, and content, that's when you really win.
Absolutely. I
Yep.
think, words to live by. Reach out to Angela, send us a note, and we'll see you at the next one. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. See ya.